In this video, we'll concentrate on the player in terms of getting it to reinstantiate after losing a life and giving us a little bit of, rest time between when it reinstantiates until it can get hit by an asteroid again. The thing we don't want to happen is that you get reinstantiated and then you're dead right away. So we need to do a little bit of programming to prevent that from happening. So let's take a look here. First thing I'm going to do, because we're going to use the ship again multiple times, let's make that into a prefab right away. So let's just drag that in. So now the ship's a prefab. Don't think we need to change anything on that. We're going to look at, in terms of the scripting, we're going to look at our game manager, because our game manager will do most of the work here. So I'm going to go to the game manager, open that up, and I think what we'll do first, once we get this going here, it's just sort of, well, we're going to use another sound here because we don't have a sound for us dying, so we'll just use one of these here. We know that we've died, obviously, when we subtract the lives. So let us put a sound in there right away. So I'm going to do, what is it, sound dot play one shot, and I don't know which one, but we'll just use the bang L, the large bang there. So that will play the sound, and then it's going to drop the lives, update the score and lives. Now, what we want it to do is reinstantiate it, but like I said, we need a little bit of time between that, and we need it to sort of flicker on and off. If you play the game, you'll notice that it sort of flickers on and off and does a few other things. Now there is an animation as well, and I haven't done that yet, and maybe we'll look at that later on, but at least we'll get it reinstantiating here. So I'm going to do a few little things. One is, because if we've got it anytime that we're waiting, we have to use that IE numerator. So I'm going to use this IE numerator here, and I'll call it flash player. And whoops, that's interesting. And I think, there we go. What I'm going to do right at the very start, IE numerator flash player. Wow. Oh, there, that's why. What's going on? Okay. What we've got is sort of an issue here, is I think we're going to have a little bit of a break first. So let's just give ourselves a little, maybe half second or second wait. Let's just put a second in for a moment. So wait for seconds. I'm going to put 1 second there, not 10, 1 second. So just give us a 1 second break. Then what we're going to do is we are going to instantiate a new player. So, and I'm going to give this a name here. So it's going to be a game object called new player, and we're going to instantiate. And I haven't created a spot for this yet, but I'm just going to call it the player. Hopefully, always gives that problem. You always have to click off of it. Okay, so player, and that will be our prefab. Okay, we have to create that public game object above. We'll do that in a few minutes. We'll create a new vector 2 because we need a location, and making it really easy is it will just be, make that a vector 2, right in the center, and then the rotation, usually if I don't know anything, I just put a quaternion.identity, and that takes the rotation of the prefab. So let's just fix this up here because it's saying we don't have the player. So that's just simply going to be a game object, and we'll call that player. That will just hold our prefab. Okay, so dropping back down. Now we've waited a second, we've instantiated the player. We're actually going to do two things here. We're going to grab, so renderer is part of the game object. We're actually going to grab that new player's renderer. So I'm going to call that renderer. And so then I'm just going to get the component. So new player dot get component, and we're going to grab the renderer. And that is what we can turn on and off, because we still want the player to be able to move. We don't want to sort of get rid of that aspect of it, but this will let us enable and enable and disable, I guess, the renderer. The other thing what we want to do is grab the Collider 2D, and make sure you use Collider 2D. So I'm going to call that new player Collider. And so then on the new player, we're going to get the component. And you can just basically say Collider 2D. You can use Capsule Collider and sort of more specific ones. But since we're only got the one on there, I think just saying Collider 2D is fine. So what we basically have now is a new player that's been put into our game, and we've grabbed the references to the renderer and the collider. And the idea is we're going to flash the renderer on and off so that it appears to go on and off, and then we're going to be able to turn off the collider so we don't have to worry about a asteroid hitting us while we're just sort of restarting here. So what I'm going to do is that first thing, I'm going to take that collider dot enabled, and I'm going to set that to false. So what I've done is turned off the collider, so no collisions will occur. Now what I'm going to use is a for loop. And so I have to set my counter, which usually we use I. And now this, I've decided that I'm going to use 6, and I'll explain why in a second. So it's going to run through this 6 times, and then we have to increase our counter each time it goes through. So remember, this will run through it 0 to 5, which is 6 times. And this is actually the very similar code to how we got the flashing text in the Pong game, I think. So what I'm going to do here is new player renderer dot enabled, and this is going to switch it between is equal to not new player renderer dot enabled, and like this is it will flip the active state here. So if it's one way, it's going to change it to the other, basically back and forth. And then of course we need this yield return, return new, wait 4 seconds, and I used 0.5 just to see how that works, and I think that works fine. And so the idea here, let me just make sure, good, there's my, is it's going to flash on and off 6 times. So the idea is actually it's going to flash on and off 3 times, I guess. 3 cycles through. So it turns it off, on, off, on, off, on, sort of, right? That sort of 6 times or 3 times, right? Depending on what you want to do. 3 on-off cycles or 6 separate ons and offs, sort of thing, if that makes sense. So that's what's going on there. If you want to increase the number of times or less times, you can change that number. If you want to change the number of wait 4 seconds, that time. Now the key thing is, I think this needs to be a even number, or else you'll end up with it renderer turned off completely. So you could do 8 or 10 or whatever the case is. Just be careful with that. Now the other thing that we have to do is once it's gone through this, we're going to do new player. The collider we've got to turn off. Enabled. We've got to turn on because we had turned it off. So we turn that back on, and now we should be able to play as a normal player. So let's save that. Go back to Unity. And I believe in our game manager, we should now have a spot to put our ship. Oh, did I not set it to be public? So it's not popping up there. Let me just double check here. I didn't set that to be public. So I want that to be public there. I'm going to go back to Unity. And hopefully that will show up now. And there it is. And I'll just drag in my prefab, which is my ship. Good. So let's take a look at this. So first thing I should hear is a sound there. Okay, that was good. It died. And Interesting. It is not coming in. So let's take a look at this. And of course, what did Mr. Fleming do but forget to start the coroutine? So let's start that coroutine. So I did all this lovely code about the Flash player, but we never run it. So obviously here, subtract lives, so we've died. That sound was working. That was good to know. It dropped the lives, it updates the score, and then start the coroutine. And the coroutine we call Flash player. There we go. Okay, don't forget that. And so let's just test this out. And once it's ready to go here, so it should play. Okay, let's just, okay, so there's off. 1 second there, I'm back. It's flashing. And then I'm ready to play. Now, I should be ready to play before that. So let's just play around and test it. I should be flying into it rather. Oh, Mr. Fleming. There, I'm going to hit it now. Hopefully. There we go. So there, I'm flying. Now, you can rest assured that it is, we'll just, well, actually, this won't be very good. It's hard to see, but it should, I can reassure you, there, and we could just see it actually right there, that the collision, it didn't die again, and so it seems to be working. Now obviously I've got a bit of an issue with the lives are going to go negative in a second here if I die again. And we still need to get it so that the asteroids sort of appear around, and that, you know, if we clear a level, that we get more asteroids sort of reappearing. So we'll take a look at that. And probably what I'm going to do is our last video.